Animation is a relatively new medium, and one well suited to reviving stories from the past. For many years, animated films thrived nearly exclusively by adapting fairy tales, legends, and children's books. This was especially true for Walt Disney Productions. From its very first feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Disney's empire was built on adapting the stories of others. Fairy tales, short stories, plays, and contemporary novels were all adapted by the studio into animated works that usually eclipsed the popularity of the source material in the public eye. In 1994, Disney released The Lion King. Before release, the film was heavily marketed as the studio's first original story. This was a brand new approach for Disney, and it may have been this skew that helped propel the film to being the highest-grossing animated feature of all time. Claims of The Lion King's originality were heavily marketed. But were they valid? King of the Jungle, also known as Kimba the White Lion, was created in 1950 by Japanese comic artist Osamu Tezuka. First a comic book, then an animated series in 1965, King of the Jungle follows the story of Kimba, an orphaned white lion cub who must reclaim his kingdom and continue his late father's dynasty. Tezuka was extremely popular in his home country, with Astro Boy being his largest success and Kimba his second. Often referred to as the Walt Disney of Japan, his reverence for Disney was no secret. He and his studio readily admitted that Kimba was heavily inspired by Bambi, and Disney even approached him to adapt it into comic form for the Japanese market in 1953. Hardly an obscure property in Japan, Kimba became the mascot for products across the country, including the Cebu Lions baseball team. King of the Jungle enjoyed popularity from the 1950s to the 1980s, ending with the death of its creator in 1989. That same year, The Lion King began production, and was released to critical acclaim in 1994. To Western audiences, the imagery and themes seemed fresh, dramatic, and unfamiliar. But to Japanese viewers, it was a different story.
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner, head of the Walt Disney Company. The Lion King is unique. Unlike our other Disney animated features, The Lion King is not based on any previously published fairy tale or literary work. It's an original concept that was developed in the story department of Disney Animation.
Lion King, it is the epitome of what this company stands for.
The Lion King became the highest-grossing animated film of all time in 1994, gaining immediate international fame and recognition. The production staff of The Lion King have some conflicting views on the origins of the story. The film was simultaneously advertised as
Unique.
An extraordinary original story, all new characters.
Nothing about it is familiar. It's completely untried, untested.
But in interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, works cited as inspiration for the film include
Ben-Hur,
King Arthur, Old Testament tales,
Moses,
almost like a fable,
Shakespearean,
Bettelheim,
Bambi in Africa with Hamlet thrown in.
the film continued to be mythologized, often being compared to Western epics and the Bible, until it became the untouchable icon it is today.
I don't think I realized how big The Lion King was. It is a huge name, and the fact that it's The Lion King is, I mean, it's just one of those things like My Fair Lady that everybody's heard of.
In 1989, Tezuka Productions created a posthumous film adaptation of King of the Jungle titled Jungle Emperor Leo. The film was a faithful adaptation of the last half of Tezuka's King of the Jungle comic, following Kimba as an adult lion with cubs. The film's 10-year production was troubled, however, and it wasn't released until 1997, 3 years after The Lion King. Julian Grant, organizer of the Fantasia Film Festival, reports that the Walt Disney Company filed a cease and desist order against them when their festival added Jungle Emperor Leo to their 1997 lineup. Though Jungle Emperor Leo was released after The Lion King, both films began production in 1989. Despite the cease and desist order, Jungle Emperor Leo screened to a full house, though this would be the last North American screening the film ever received. To this day, the Walt Disney Company's official stance is that nobody on the team has ever heard of King of the Jungle or Osamu Tezuka. This seems unlikely. Matthew Broderick, the voice of Simba, says he was familiar with Kimba before production. Roy Disney himself also referred to The Lion King's protagonist as Kimba on a Prodigy message board 1 year before the film's release. After the film's release in Japan, Tezuka Productions acknowledged their discomfort with the similarities between the works, but did not have the funds to file any lawsuits. The controversy received little press coverage outside Japan, with the notable exception of a nod from The Simpsons.
You must avenge my death, Kimba. I mean, Simba.
Though The Lion King may be a global icon, Kimba still captivates Japan in subtle ways. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from another work. But when originality is claimed after doing so, and when hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake, the picture changes a little.